Man, what a crazy launch Crimson Desert had. Just crazy. All the talk around the game, from performance, from criticism, from review scores, from stock plummeting. It has been actually crazy. That is the best word to describe the whole thing. However, this video is not about Crimson Desert, at least not specifically. Because this video is more about gaming media. I know, always a hot topic, you know. But I think it's been going crazy. And if you usually watch reviews online, if you watch content, you know that mainstream gaming media, it's really not to be trusted. All the reviews should always be taken with a grain of salt because they're not very consistent. Okay, sometimes they get it well, sometimes they do good work, but I would argue most of the time they do not. At least not for the reviews. So why now? Well, the other day, we finally got the reviews for Marathon. Now, I'm going to take IGN as the punching bag because it's the funniest and it's the easiest one. But pretty much everyone agrees, okay? So you can replace it with pretty much anyone. Now, I want to clarify this. IGN gave Marathon a 9. As a disclaimer, I do not own Marathon right now. I haven't played it since the server slam. Actually, I made a video about it, and I try to be as fair as possible. However, extraction shooters are not a genre that I particularly enjoy. So, I'm not going to criticize the score IGN gave it. When I played it on the server slam, I wouldn't say it was a 9, but I couldn't find any glaring issues with the game. It ran well, it looked well. The shooting is good. In terms of the content, how much is enough for launch or not. The thing is, I think it was a solid game. I thought it was a solid game. Was it a 9? Not at the time, but from my understanding, the game has improved. They released a content where it was Cryo something. That is an endgame area that apparently, from people's opinion, it's very, very good. So, Marathon may as well be a 9. I'm not in a position to tell you because my own bias against extraction shooters is not that I hate them, I just don't have a lot of fun with them, so I don't play them usually. It's clearly a very well-made game. Does that make it a good extraction shooter? I don't know, but people seem to think it is a good extraction shooter. So, this is not to criticize the score. This is to criticize the conversation. I'm going to go into a bit of a tangent here because I just remember, in my opinion, it didn't make the buzz that it should have when it happened. Bungie asked reviewers and media to hold on their reviews until they managed to release this latest piece of content because it was how the game was supposed to be. I'm sorry. So you're telling me you released a game unfinished and people paid for it? Because by Bungie's own admission, this piece of content was essential for the experience they wanted to deliver with Marathon. Yeah, but people were buying your game as it came out. Not as it's going to be a month from release. And the craziest thing is, they listen. That's why the reviews came out on March 30th, 25 days after the release of the game. Let's do a little exercise for a second. Close your eyes and picture this scenario. Imagine if a few days before release, Pearl Abyss, the developers of Crimson Desert, would ask gaming media and reviewers to hold off their reviews because they have a bunch of patches that will get the game to the point that how it's supposed to be experienced. These patches will be game changers from when the game releases. Imagine the response from the media. Do you think they will go like, oh yeah, sure, no problem? No. They would get destroyed independently if they do it or not, because you never know with these guys. It would be hit piece after hit piece, just trashing Pearl Abyss for having the gall of asking reviewers to delay their scores. They will make articles saying how they are anti-consumer practices because players won't be able to know the scores, wouldn't be able to know if the game is good or not before it releases, and they will be spending their hard-earned money on it. Oh, and you know these guys, probably some of them would go like, this is a blatant attack on freedom of expression and freedom of the press, because every time you criticize the press is apparently against freedom of expression. It would be a slaughterhouse. Just insanity. Well, when Bungie asked, okay, it's a well-beloved studio. It's under one of the biggest gaming companies in the world, which is Sony, go and asks, can you guys delay the reviews? Because we have this piece of content that is a complete game changer for the game. And they just went like, oh, yeah, sure, bro, no problem. Do you want a foot massage as well, sir? No. Oh, thank you. Just let me know. I'm here for you. It's insane. In fact, that alone would be reason enough to never listen to whatever these media outlets say. Not that we need more reasons, but sorry. It's a bit of a rant. And I think it didn't get as much media coverage. It got a lot, but even it should have been way bigger. To me, it's a blatant breaking of trust with the players and that actually read your reviews, that listen to your scores. Because let's be honest, the majority of the players, they don't go when a game releases or is about to release, they don't go to YouTube and watch 7 different 20-minute reviews and they see, okay, this guy liked this, but this one didn't like this, and everyone liked kind of this, so I can make sure what the game is actually like I do. They just go to Metacritic or straight up to IGN or PC Gamer, somewhat skim between the review, watch the score. Oh, it's a Marathon is a 9. Oh, great. That's the majority of the players. Okay, normal people that just want to know if somewhat the game is good, and they go to IGN. However, those people didn't have those reviews up when the game came out, and maybe they bought it, and a lot of them didn't like it. Who knows? To me, delaying reviews is one of the most anti-consumer things that you can do as an outlet. Because I don't care about the particular problems the studio may or may not have with the product on release day. It's their responsibility to have a fully working, good product on release. And the scores and the reviews should reflect that. Should reflect it. So when players are going to buy it, they can check, okay, is this well received or not? So, on the flip side, let's look at Crimson Desert. Crimson Desert got a 6. And it got it, as it should, a day before release. That we're on the same page. I absolutely love this game, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's a 9. No. Even now, I would argue it's a solid 8. I could hear arguments for maybe a 7, sure, okay, depending on what you value the most in this game. The point of all this, I'm sorry, I digress. Remember, Marathon came out 2 weeks before Crimson Desert. If you just go to IGN's Twitter, and you go to Marathon specifically, and you look at the tweets made about it, you have the reviews. If we take out whatever duplicated articles, because for some reason IGN keeps posting the same thing 2-3 days after the first time. If we go back from the day of release, there is like, 10, 12, 15? Now, to be fair, Marathon has a lot less engagement in Twitter than something like Crimson Desert. But if you go to Crimson Desert, and we ignore the guides, okay, like how to get this thing or that thing, there is dozens of posts. Just yesterday, there was 3. On Marathon, how many of them are actually negative? Now, to be fair, they gave it a 9, so I'm assuming they don't think there is a lot of negative towards the game. And again, I didn't think there was a lot to be negative about the game, except the fact that it is a hardcore extraction shooter, which to a lot of people, it's going to be a negative because it's a very niche genre. How many people have played Escape from Tarkov and kept playing? But there is not even articles about that. However, because it's not a very divisive game, it's a divisive game in terms of what it is, but it's not a divisive game in terms of the community. People tried it on the server slam, made out their mind, like I did, and people who enjoy it keep playing it, which is great. It has a player base that has been relatively consistent. In fact, I think it's more consistent than I thought it would be. However, it is slightly declining day after day. However, Crimson Desert, you have articles like this. Pearl Abyss has already made significant meaningful changes to Crimson Desert following a rocky launch, but patches can fix the game's biggest problem. And that got community noted, saying this is clickbait. The game did not release with any game-breaking bugs, and users have not reported any game-breaking bugs. Most reviews have been favorable. Well, the article itself, it's something I would classify as a hit piece. Can Crimson Desert patch its way to a Cyberpunk 2077 style victory? This is implying that there is any comparison between the launch of Cyberpunk and Crimson Desert. They're not even in the same galaxy. I should know. I was there with Cyberpunk 2077 released. Luckily, I had a PC that could somewhat brute force some of the problems. That didn't stop the game from disappearing NPCs, falling through the ground, flying cars, crashing, and not to mention the PS4 version, which didn't work. Because when you enter the game, it is unplayable. Whoever bought that game on the PS4 was straight up scammed. That is a version that shouldn't have existed. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 was fixed to becoming one of the greatest games. Maybe not of all time, but at least from the past 2 decades. I played it after a lot of the patches, but I haven't played it since the release of the DLC. I need to, honestly. But it was already very good. Crimson Desert did not launch even in the same galaxy. To even begin to compare the two launches is laughable, resulting in mixed Steam reviews. By the time this article released, the reviews were not on mixed. Not anymore. Equally mixed critical reception. The game got a Metacritic score from reviewers of 78, 9, right at the day before release when the reviews came out. I wouldn't call that mixed. Now it has an army of testers, 3 million strong, 4 million by now. The story's not good. Okay, fair point. I agree. But this isn't a game focused on the story. This is a game that focuses on the world, and the world is fantastic. And it's enough to carry the negativity, the negative points about it, like the story and the controls. The combat and the world carries this game. And this is one of my biggest criticisms of this comparison. To unlock Crimson Desert's more accomplished facets, you have to dedicate hours to mediocrity. Okay, Marathon, you know, the Cryo Archive, the newest patch, the thing that they delayed the reviews for. From what I've seen, it's apparently fantastic. However, it's an endgame area. You need to play for hours in order to be able to enter. However, in here is to mediocrity. In here, while I would agree that yes, Crimson Desert has a rough onboarding, it does slog at the beginning quite a bit. And it has many frustrating things, like making you follow your NPCs on horseback for 10 minutes without being able to sprint. Okay? I hate that. That is annoying. Yes. So it's a massive problem, like a deal breaker for Crimson Desert. But the fact that you have to play hours on Marathon in order to reach the quote-unquote better stuff, but apparently that's not a problem on Marathon. Or at least not enough to affect the score. The way Crimson Desert was treated, very similar to Black Myth Wukong, only to the game come out, and it was a very divisive game. Let's be fair. The mixed reviews on Steam, that told something to players. And to me, it said that many players, despite how open Pearl Abyss was, how they described the game, there's so much gameplay that they've shown, a lot of people didn't know what they were getting into. I said it on one of my videos, that most likely the story was gonna be meh. at best. Because of the type of game it is, but more specifically because of the studio that it is. All the focus had been on the world, and the story feels like an afterthought. Which is fair, okay? It doesn't need to be a perfect game with everything dialed to perfection. It is a massive game, one of the biggest I have played. In terms of scope, in terms of size itself, and in terms of mechanics and systems. There is just so much shit that is crazy. Do we have to sacrifice the story for all that depth? I'm good. I would have liked it was better. Yeah, of course. I mean, who wouldn't? But this is the game we have. And a lot of people came in thinking this was going to be a more casual experience. Crimson Desert is far more, creates a lot more friction than you would think because of the way it's designed. This game does not tell you what to do half the time. Half the time you spend an hour with a puzzle or an area and you don't know what the shit you have to do, only to remember or to Google it to figure out that you had to use that mechanic that you were taught in the tutorial 20 hours ago and you forgot that you had because you haven't used it. 2 days before, we had another tweet. Crimson Desert has an incredibly designed world that is a joy to explore, but I wish there was more to find in its beautiful locations. What? There is just so much shit. Do you want more? Seriously? What are we talking about? Oh, Red Dead Redemption 2. The game that the horse balls change depending on the weather. Oh, I wish it had more detail. Okay, it doesn't work on Intel GPUs. That is an extremely fair criticism. And I think to straight up making it so it doesn't work, I think it was a very shitty move. Oh, yeah. That's AI, or am I crazy? Crimson Desert players think they have found AI-generated art in-game. And yeah, the whole AI thing, the AI-generated art. Man, every outlet went crazy with this. Again, now, from all the criticism you can nail on the game, for how big it is, I'm like, okay, I don't like it, but it's the least of my problems. If they put AI images as pictures, as paints in the houses to fill the walls. Have you seen how much shit is inside those houses? Would it be better if it wasn't AI generated? Sure, but with how big the game is, I don't care. Crimson Desert launched to big Steam concurrence, but it's currently on a mixed user review rating on Valve's platform, with most of the complaints revolving around the controls. Everything they post. How many articles did they run about the concurrent players for Marathon? I would say none. And that was something to point out. I'm not saying Marathon had bad numbers. In fact, for the type of game it is, I think it had good numbers. And it still holds on good numbers. But this is a big AAA project from Bungie, which is more relevant for Marathon than for Crimson Desert. Because Crimson Desert is a single-player game. You can patch the game to make it into a better state, but at some point you're just going to stop patching and it's going to keep selling. Marathon only will survive if you keep pouring money into it and creating more content. That's why it's a live service game. Again, Crimson Desert came out almost 2 weeks after Marathon, and it has like 3 times the amount of posts and shit. And then if you keep going back, we go to the stock price drop, which has already recovered by this point because investors panic. Now, there was a lot of chat about this, about the drop of like 30% in Pearl Abyss stock right before release when the reviews actually came out. And I think that's on Pearl Abyss because they probably promised their investors that this was the game of the generation. They probably promised them the moon, and then the reviews came out and it was like 77, 78 in Metacritic, and they were like, oh fuck, and they sold because that's what investors do. They panic, and then the price dropped, and everyone, it was crazy and it was insane, and everyone, it was the end of the world, the end of the game, it's dead on arrival, blah 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 blah. Again, crazy. Every single ran with the story for days. They reposted, they posted new articles and new articles about the same thing. What is it now? I think it's even higher than what it was before release. The last time I checked, it was 27% up, so almost as it was before the drop. But you don't see many articles about how Marathon is probably one of the last attempts at this size of game that Bungie's gonna get from Sony. And we know how trigger happy Sony is with their studios, okay? And with their prices. Damn it, fuck Sony. And while I don't agree with IGN's review, and I don't agree with the score they gave it, my problem is the double standard. One game even dares to ask you to delay your review, and you don't even say shit. You just fall in line because you wouldn't dare to piss off Bungie, but mostly Sony, because you might lose your access. However, Crimson Desert, okay, there is a lot to criticize on Crimson Desert. But do I need to be running article after article after article about how the controls are so shit, how the story is terrible? So, and like I said at the beginning, only because of this delay in reviews is a reason to never listen and take serious anything these outlets say. And I'm sure someone is going to tell me, oh, then who should I listen to? You? No. Fuck no, not me. I don't do reviews. I just talk about games that I play. Whatever, if I like them or not, what I liked and what I didn't. But I'm not going to give Marathon a score, like I said, because I know that probably my own bias towards an extraction shooter is going to sneak in there. So I'm not going to say it doesn't deserve the 9 out of 10. Maybe it does. But what you should do, I'm not going to tell you, again, to watch 7 reviews of each game, but find a YouTuber that is a reviewer, independent, that you like, but most importantly, that you trust is telling you what they think. And I could say, well, it's telling you the truth. Yes, but the truth of what they actually think for the game. Good or bad. I'll give you an example. YouTubers and reviewers I usually watch from when I actually want to see a review on if whatever I'm going to buy a game or not are Luke Stevens, Fextra Life, Game Ranks, Skill Up. A lot of the time, I don't agree with their takes. Sometimes they have a take that I'm like, no, I actually think that is a good thing, or I actually think that game is good and they didn't like it, or the other way around. Am I right? Am I wrong? I don't know. Probably some haters for those channels, if they watch this, maybe they will leave a comment. But my point is, I trust that at least they're telling me what they actually think, okay? I'm not saying you should watch them, but find one that you think or you believe it's telling you the real opinion of the game, good or bad. Anyway, it was kind of pissing me off. I mean, I just wish they would treat every game the same and fairly. Well, anyway, I just wanted, honestly, I just wanted it out of my chest. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If you made it to this point for a good chunk of a rant. I haven't made any video about Crimson Desert because I've tried to make a video like 3 times and and at the end I just thought, okay, I'm going to finish the game and then maybe I can go over the whole thing. Of course, by that point, in the next 6 months probably, it's going to be a lot of improvements towards the game. Thank you for watching. If you made it to this point, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.